To politics now, and the former Cabinet Minister Keith Pitt has announced he's quitting politics. He joins us live now from his electorate office. Keith Pitt, thanks for your time. Why did you make the call to call time on your political career?
Well, firstly, welcome to the Kieran Gilbert exclusive. I've got to say to your viewers, this was just something we'd organised to talk about energy, so it's just convenient. But mate, time waits for no one. I've always had a very long-held view that no matter what I'm doing, no matter how it's going, I can always make more money, but I can't make more time, and it's my time. At the next election, I expect that the swing will be towards the coalition. I leave my local FDC in a strong financial position on a 10% seat, and I'm wishing Peter Dutton all the best in 2025. But I've got a very unexpected opportunity. My wife has asked me every week since I started, why am I still doing this? And I've finally got to the point where I've said, well, actually, it's time to let someone else have a go.
And what's the opportunity? Can you share any of that for us or with us?
I'll have more to say on that in coming weeks, but that's yet to be finalised. But it was time to make a decision, and that decision's been made. I wish the party every success. I know that there will be very strong candidates put their hand up for the pre-selection here, and it will be a traditional democratic pre-selection selected by local members. There'll be none of the factional nonsense that you find in other places here, because we just haven't allowed that to occur in local politics in my FDC. But it's been a great privilege to serve. It really has. I've had some extraordinary opportunities, and I couldn't have done it without the support of my local members and volunteers and supporters, in particular my staff, and of course my family, Kieran, who I think are probably more relieved than anything.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You don't have to make those difficult flights, and getting to your part of the world's not always that easy at the end of a sitting week. But just elaborate for us on your view as to where the Nationals are going under David Littleproud. You're urging him to stand up and differentiate the Nationals from the Liberals. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, firstly, Kieran, people should look at my actual quotes and what I've actually said, and my commentary is always about policy. It's never about personalities. Canberra is a tough place, and there's lots of times where you disagree, and that's a good thing, because in my view, you get better policies when you push and prod and poke and move things around until you get the absolute best possible outcome. But political parties that have no purpose, well, they rapidly disappear. And you know, it's tough being a member of the Nationals from a regional seat. You are always the minority numbers in a coalition. The Liberal Party always have significant more numbers than the Nats. And that's why you've got to have bold policies, you've got to take bold positions, and you have to fight for what matters, because at the end of the day, it is our people who are in lower socioeconomic areas. They have less available cash, $10, $20, $30, $40 for them in a week. That matters. And they are all the reasons I put myself forward to be a Member of Parliament, is to stand up for the people who can't stand up for themselves in Canberra, and to try and make a difference for them, particularly when it comes to what it costs around some of these policies.
You have said that you have a different priority and different views on what should be the priority and direction for the Nationals to David Littleproud. What are those differences?
Well, as I've said, it's not about individuals, it's about policies. And if we look at net zero in particular, and I've said this publicly before, I think Labor has moved too far, too fast, and at too much cost at a time when the Australian people simply can't afford it. These are significant investments. It is hundreds of billions of dollars that has to be paid for at a time where a bag of grated cheese is $10. They are really struggling out there, and I just think this is something that can wait. It can be delayed. You've got till 2050. And if you want to do something about energy, well, you've got a couple of choices. You can build continually, as the Labor Party is doing right now, unreliable, intermittent, fully subsidised wind and solar. You can build nuclear, which is costly, but is reliable and works and will be the most affordable option in terms of zero emissions. Or you can build coal. You can build 14 gigawatts of coal for about $43 billion, in my view, and it'll work all the time. If you look at what's changed in the energy network, that's what's happened. We've moved away from what was the most affordable to what people expect to have zero emissions. So I just think there is time. We've got time to get this right, and that's the priority.
Barnaby Joyce was on the program earlier, and I know you two, you're mates now, but you haven't always seen eye to eye on everything, but he was very gracious and supportive of your history and legacy in the Parliament. I've got to tell you, David Littleproud's statement here, the only reference to you says the Nationals wish Keith all the best in his new endeavours. And normally you do get a leader saying, describing what you've done here and what you've done and contributed to this place over a number of years. Does that disappoint you, the statement that Mr Littleproud's office released today?
Kieran, I've had any number of very generous comments come into my office, directly to me, texts, emails, messages, and they've been incredibly generous. And of course, there's others that are not quite so generous. Welcome to politics. And it's just like an election. You've got to get 50% plus one. You can never get 100% of the people, but I'll leave the commentary to the commentators. I haven't seen what Barnaby said, and you're right. We've had moments where we haven't seen eye to eye. And it's a bit of a character flaw for me, mate, when it comes to politics. I'd rather be right than popular, and my view hasn't changed.
We should go back and watch what Barnaby had to say. As I said, he went for quite a while, but he was praising you for your contribution. When you look at the issue of nuclear, you've raised it already. Your Premier in Queensland, he's saying it's not part of their plan. They don't want nuclear in Queensland. He and Jared Bligh, the Deputy Premier of the LNP government. Is this going to be a tricky one heading into the federal election?
Well, all policies can be significantly difficult when you're trying to do something as big as this. This is a very substantial change to the way that electricity is generated in Australia. But it's not a new industry anymore. It's an industry which is absolutely necessary to support AUKUS. You will have that technical background and people, because without them you can't support AUKUS. You do have to deal with high-level radioactive waste.
Should those state people fall into line?
It's up to them. I mean, state premiers under our federation have constitutional responsibilities, and they can do and say and take what policies they like. The coalition's job, as it comes into the next election, will be to sell this proposition to the Australian people and win the campaign. And mate, I've got to tell you, after announcements like I've made tomorrow, a heartbeat later, you're yesterday's hero. So it'll be up to others.
Peter Dutton said he spoke to you yesterday, that he's a friend of yours, and I know you've been very positive about Mr Dutton, said that he'll make a fabulous Prime Minister. He said that he felt that you were frustrated that you weren't on the front bench. Is that part of the reasoning here that you've pulled the pin?
No, as I said, I had an unexpected opportunity. I had a discussion with my wife and family and made a decision after 11 years of service to the local people and to our country in the federal parliament to not continue. It's as simple as that. In the parliament, mate, it's the weirdest place I've ever worked. And sure, my frustration bucket has filled slowly over a long period of time, but that's what happens. It's different to anywhere I've ever been. It's not like a normal workplace. And I'm someone that likes to get things done, and I like to be in the heart of it and making decisions. And it's just time to move on.
You, just finally, you said you've left the seat in a good position for the LNP. Is it going to be a contest, though, do you believe? Do they have to take it seriously, Hinkler, or is the buffer strong enough for the LNP just to hold it no matter who runs and what the campaign is?
I think if you went back and asked everyone that lost a extraordinarily safe seat at the last election, they'll tell you there's no such thing. So you still have to work. You still have to have a proposition that resonates. You need a candidate that fits the seat. You need to do things that matter to the people that live here and demonstrate that you'll be a fighter for them, because that's what they need. Regional people in particular are very passionate about their members of parliament and who represents them, whether it's in Canberra or Brisbane. And they want local people with a grassroots feel. And I've been incredibly fortunate, Kieran. I've held the seat for 4 terms off the back of extensive support. There are literally tens of thousands of supporters both here and across the country, which can continue to make me incredibly humbled. So it's been a great privilege. It's been a privilege to serve, and I thank my local people and the Australian people.
And I know you've got a few months left, but just for our discussion today and the purposes of that, any final reflections or thoughts for your colleagues in the National Party as to what they need to do, in your view?
Well, it's the same as always. Have good candidates, have a good proposition, have enough funding to run a strong campaign, and have a differential between yourself and the Labor Party. Because the Labor Party has done an enormous amount of damage in just one term. No one is better off now than they were 3 years ago, Kieran. They genuinely aren't. They have less available cash because things cost so much more. And they're in a really difficult position. And if you're not there to represent the people who have the hardest time in your local electorate, well, don't go to Canberra. Find something else to do.
Well, yeah, and I know, as you said, Canberra can be a tough place, and politics is not the easiest. But I thank you for your generosity and generosity with your time, and always coming on for a chat. And as robust as sometimes it is, you always show up. So thanks for that, and all the best for what's next, Keith Pitt. Thanks.
Always a lot of fun. Thanks, Kieran.